dreaming means also dreaming something that's possible even though it looks impossible. And I want to show you this so that about this we talk about dreaming. Here, mostrémosles un poquito del. Let's see that. That's dreaming, isn't it?
That's dreaming. You know, writers like yourself, you're a great writer, and you start with a dream. I think everything starts with a dream. You wake up in the morning and think, oh, I could go and do this, or I could do that. And when the remarkable thing about the film business is writers put their dreams on paper, and they really don't know whether their movie is going to be made or not. You know, they write it hoping that someone else will hook up with that dream and figure out how to make it real and visualize it. And I think that's a beautiful thing about the film business, and particularly the visual effects business is the visual effects artists are the biggest dreamers of all. Maybe the writers are probably, you know, up there at the top, but and then you have your directors, and you have all these people that not only dream of what you create, but the experience of being there. And I was not planning on being in the film business at all. I was blowing glass in art school at UCLA. It's about 22 years old, I think. And, you know, somebody said, well, you know, they need some help out at Paramount. I'd never been on a movie lot, never seen a movie being made. And, you know, I went out and they said, well, we have a matter-antimatter engine that needs to be get real.
So the writer wrote a matter-antimatter machine,
Yeah.
which of course only exists in the writer's imagination, only at the time.
And that was Gene Roddenberry, who created Star Trek.
Okay, the creator of Star Trek. Okay,
And Bob Wise was the director of the movie. You know, he did Sound of Music and West Side Story. It's a pretty impressive director.
Big movies.
He's the editor of Citizen Kane, you know. And I met this little white-haired man in a room, and I thought, what a nice guy, you know. And he said, well, we need this thing that has to look like matter-antimatter. And I showed him some pictures, and he said, how big can you make this? And I said, well, I'd made pictures this, you know, this big. And it was light going through glass, that I would make the glass, you know, in a furnace and then put light through it to bend the light. I was doing a thesis in abstract light sculpture, and turned out that this was a big light sculpture they needed. The engine of the Enterprise, right? But it had to be live. It had to be real time, in camera. And in those days,
it was not a visual effect.
It was not a visual
at all.
effect.
I mean, it was
on
like
on set.
Okay,
real time, real
practical.
time, yeah. And so my first project was a real time event on set. That was a 60-foot high column of light that was. It worked. You know, I built it in my garage. And it was a whole giant experience of learning the film business, because, you know, I had never been on a big movie, and a big movie is, you know, terrifying. If you're kind of up at bat, you know, you're the one. And so Bob Wise, I built this thing in my garage, and I had never turned it on because I didn't have enough power. So I did sections of it, and then we took it in under great secrecy. And
But let's make something clear. This is your first approach to the industry.
yeah, I'd
So
never been on a
nobody
film
knew
set
who
before.
Sam Nicholson
Right.
was. So if it had gone wrong, it would have gone very wrong. For
Well,
you.
but here's the thing: is this is supposed to be a matter-antimatter engine of the Enterprise. So they had JPL experts come out and say this is what it would be, and it would be this giant white-hot column of light, 8 feet in diameter. So anyway, they had magnets all around it. So it was 3 stories high, and so I said, sure. Yeah, maybe I was the only one foolish enough to say, sure, I can do this, right? So I beat out all the competition to get the contract. Bob Weiss believed I could do it, right? So the director, which I had no idea, if the director says he's going to do it, then everybody gets in line. So Bob said, sure, he's going to pull it off. So I built this thing in my garage. Took about, I don't know, 2 months to build it because I had to blow the glass, build what we called light guns. We built 40 of these light guns.
Who blew that glass? You did.
I did.
You did it.
Yeah,
Yourself?
I was going to be a glass blower. Yeah, I was not going to be in film. I was going to be a glass blower.
You see what we were talking about?
Yeah.
This guy does everything.
This is pretty much
Blowing the glass.
Yeah, I love blowing glass. But so, I thought, based on getting the contract, I thought, well, I was trying to do big light sculpture, and this was big light sculpture, and they were going to pay for it. And so I built this thing, and we would light up sections of it in my house in Venice Beach, and it was so much light coming out of this. It was all kinetic, like fire and stuff like that. The fire department showed up. They thought the house was on fire.
Oh, really?
Right? Yeah. I mean, it was a lot of light, and I'd light up, 8 feet of it, 10,000 watts of light going off in your living room, at night, and the whole house was kind of glowing.
Your light bill is very high.
Yeah, we built it. I got a little drill press and a thing, and I made this thing in my garage. And so anyway, we took it under great secrecy because we thought, this is a big secret. So nobody had seen what it was. We took it up on chain hoist to the ceiling of the soundstage, which is about 60, 70 feet high, big soundstage at Paramount, and lowered it in to this tube that was, significant. It was about a 6-foot diameter plexiglass, 60-foot high tube on the middle of the set. And I'd never turned the thing on. And we inflated a rear projection material into the tube, and I turned it on to test it like 10 seconds at a time. I'd just turn it on and turn it off. And so the first day of shooting comes along, and Shatner and Nimoy and the entire crew of the Enterprise, all the original stars. This is the launching of the Enterprise. Big, of course, I hadn't read the script. I didn't realize it was like the big moment in the film.
That was the scene was the launching of the Enterprise.
The launching of the Enterprise.
That very important.
Right, for the first big movie, right? And this is the biggest movie in Hollywood at that point. And so they say, well, Bill is going to go up on the 3rd floor, and he's going to come down an elevator, and everybody's going to be at attention. So the whole crew is there at attention. We got a couple of cameras on it. Big Chapman crane, in the days where people rode the crane, so they're flying down the camera, big film cameras. And so I'm there with my control system, and I had only turned it on like 10 seconds at a time. And Bob Weiss is sitting next to me, the director. And he says, okay, roll camera. Shatner walks out, gets in an elevator, comes down.
Excuse me, one question before that. It was such a big moment in such a big installation that there wasn't space to rehearse with that on.
Right.
You had to shoot
Right.
with that on, even though it hadn't been on before.
Shoot the
Okay,
rehearsal.
it was like a
right?
test for everyone.
Yeah,
Okay,
it was like
good.
a big
Good to know that.
gig lineup. You know, not a big. It was just a master shot of the whole crew and the engine starting up and the Enterprise launching. So Shatner comes down the elevator. Bob Weiss is sitting in a director's chair next to me, and I've got the control panel, and the whole crew's at attention, and so Shatner says, "Okay, Scotty, you know, light it up." And Bob leans over and gives me the thumbs up to turn the whole thing on. So I turn it on high because it's supposed to be white at that point. And it's swirling light, and everybody's like, hey, it's giant, this thing's swirling around. And Shatner's, you know, okay, Scotty, take her out, you know, that kind of thing. And all of a sudden, smoke starts pouring out of my control panel, like electrical smoke, like it is melting, it's on fire. And of course, nobody has seen, they don't know what's in this antimatter engine. And the smoke is pouring out directly on the director, and somebody yells, fire, fire, you know, on a set. And this thing is white hot and going really fast, and I cannot turn it off because all of the wires have melted inside my control panel. I'd never had it on that long. So I didn't have the right amperage for the circuits. And when it was on for more than 30 seconds, it just melted and it just jammed on. And they yelled, fire, fire, save the director was the line I heard. And they picked him up in his director's chair and ran off the set with him. And all the actors ran like their hair was on fire. It was probably the most embarrassing moment of my entire career. Was the first shot. We fixed it. I mean, the special effects guys came in and said, "Oh, you know, we can fix this thing." So we were back up and running in like half an hour. But it was from there on out on that film, we did the largest lighting spectacle Paramount had ever done, which is what the start of that reel is.
This one?
That's the original movie, Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Star Trek, the first one.
Yeah, the
So
first
we
one.
can see that.
So
That's
that's
the whole thing. If we see the film,
yeah. I'm the last credit on the movie.
Wait in the last one of the.
Oh, Bob said, if we put you in with everybody else, your name will get lost. I'm going to put you on the end of the movie. And I was not in the union or anything, so they couldn't put me in with the union people.
The 87 movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the year.
Exactly.
1987.
Yeah. And so that, I mean, we went on to do the VIAJE sequence because it did work. The engine worked. And
No, that was what I wanted to know. Finally, it worked.
Oh, yeah, it worked
There
great.
was this
it
moment
was just
of
the first
but
launch was.
but the
like,
main thing worked good.
Oh yeah, no, the engine. If you watch the movie, it looks fabulous, and it's all in camera, which is at ASA 100, which is not very sensitive. So it was a lot of light, and then luck would have it, the climax of the film came up, the VIAJE sequence, which is what's on the beginning of that reel, and it was Persis Kambata was playing a robot that couldn't blink her eyes, and Steve Collins is with her. He's the love interest, and they're supposed to disintegrate in light at the end of the movie. That's where this reel starts, and so we had at that point put more light on that set than anyone had ever put on a set. They had to bring in extra power. Paramount, they had to, bring in generators and all. But we did, I don't know, 300,000-400,000 watts of light on one set. I got all the 4K drive-in theater projectors from a company called Orcon that made them, and the helicopter lights, the very bright helicopter lights. and we did everything with xenon light. And what we didn't understand is that xenon light was outputting huge amounts of UV. So everybody got suntan on the set. I mean, everyone. And because you'd be, it was like the biggest sun lamp you've ever seen. And we actually, on that scene where the Persis and Steve go up in light that starts that reel, we put so much light on them, and Persis couldn't blink her eyes, and we rotated them on a rotisserie kind of thing. And basically the studio came and said, the footage looks great. Congratulations. The bad news is our leading actress is in the hospital. She can't see. And you've sunburned our leading actor so badly that we have to shut the shoot down because looks like he laid out on the beach in Miami for 3 days, because we put a whole lot of light on him and she couldn't blink her eyes. So she kept looking into the lights and she recovered. But, blinding the leading lady and sunburning your leading man to where they have to shut the shoot down this is the way that movie ended for me. But it was quite an experience. So, I thought at that point, well, if this is, what dreams are made of, right?
Sam,
then I'm in. I could do this.
I'm afraid that this question is a very ambiguous question. The question is, doing that doing that part of the narration in that film had to be made that way in that moment. And you had to build a matter, no matter whatever the engine, and all that. You had to build it. You had to blow the glass and all that.
Right.
If you had to do that today, what would you do?